Hey, this is the Fight Nerd. If you didn't get it from my name, I'm a pretty big nerd. Behind me you can see a little glimpse of my action figure collection and some of my graphic novels as well. And that's not what makes me, the Fight Nerd, but it's what makes me a nerd in general. So today we're going to be doing a product review of something not quite the same as what we've usually done in the past, which would be exercise equipment, MMA gloves, instructional DVDs, books, that kind of stuff. Now, today we're going to be looking at the UFC action figures. Now, in my hand is Brock Lesnar. He is from Wave 0 of the Jakks Pacific UFC action figures. And today we're going to take a look at these things and see if they're worth you spending your money on. There's a lot of hardcore collectors who are probably interested in seeing this, and there's a lot of skeptics out there who probably might like to get a figure of their favorite guy, but they don't really know what they're going to actually do with this thing once they get it. Are they going to take it out of package? They're going to leave it in a box? So we're going to take a look and see if these things are actually worth spending any money on, and if they're actually any good to begin with. For those who don't know about Jakks Pacific, this is the company that also is making WWE figures through the end of this year and will also be making TNA action figures in 2010. The packaging on these UFC figures is pretty nice, with a photo of each fighter on the front as well as an image of them on the side of the box. There is also a number on the bottom designating which event this particular outfit they are wearing is from, which should answer your question of why Miguel Torres has a championship belt and not Brock Lesnar, since at this point Brock wasn't a champ yet. The back of the package is pretty standard, but also nice nonetheless, not cluttered, and feels almost like a program from a UFC event, if UFC events had 7-inch tall plastic figures on them. The packaging also changes for the WEC and Legends line, and will also be different for the upcoming Pride figures, which is a really nice touch. But I'm not a mint-on card collector, so let's talk about these bad boys out of package. In Wave 0, we have the Dean of Mean, Keith Jardine, Tough 10 coach Rashad Evans, two-time champ Frank Mir, the Spider Kendall Grove, Houston the Assassin Alexander, WEC champ Miguel Torres, one-time champ Brock Lesnar, the legendary host Gracie, and here's Paulie from Rocky. He's not really in the line though, sorry. Here's some footage of the toys to watch while I give my thoughts on them. The figures look pretty nice out of package and have all the right tattoos on all the right places, as well as the logos of sponsors, which are really a nice touch and add some authenticity to the figures. Many fans have been quick to criticize the likenesses of these figures, and I think the sculpts came out really good. As opposed to the Round 5 figures, which are caricatures that capture the feeling of a fighter, Jakks Pacific actually captures the exact likenesses with their real scan technology, which actually scans the fighter's face in real life and makes the head from that. So anyone who claims the faces look off should remember that these fighters are brought in to be scanned by a computer to get the most accurate look possible. They may not have a facial expression that you consider to be characteristic of them, but they do in fact look like the fighters. The articulation is much better than I expected, since I'm used to their WWE figures in the deluxe aggression style, and these figures have really upped the ante by adding a new chest joint to maximize the motion in their shoulders and arms. The figures also have an additional joint in their knees to give them more flexibility for posing or play. The torso also bends and thankfully does not ruin the tattoos or the creases, so smart painting on their part. One of my main concerns so far is the lack of different body types. If you paid attention so far in this video, there are 3 body types I've seen so far. There's the heavyweight body, middleweight body, and the lightweight body. I'm hoping that they're going to start making more body types as time goes on, but it's something that I'll definitely be keeping an eye on. So far, there are 2 types of shorts on the figures. There's the board shorts look, which is molded plastic to have a rough texture that's more like a gi than board shorts, and there is the tights look, which is basically just painted onto the figure. I hope down the line that we will see more entrance gear for the figures, especially since they have sponsors on the shorts. Why not have hats or cloth t-shirts too to go with that? I should mention that the news was also broken on my site a little while back in an interview with Enrique Rubalcaba from Jakks Pacific that John Fitch would have an afro like his entrance at UFC 94, and there's also a rumor that GSP will come with a headband or gi or some sort of entrance outfit in his figure that'll be coming out very soon also. Miguel Torres is the only figure to come with an accessory, that being the WEC Championship belt. Jakks is great at their accessories, which is why I was hoping the figures have more things like heavy bags or grappling dummies, but nothing yet. With that said, though, the WEC belt looks great, and I cannot wait to see what they do with the UFC and Pride belts when they make those too. Royce Gracie is the only figure in this line with fabric clothes, that being his jiu-jitsu gi and his black belt. I wish there was some texture on the gi top at least, just a simple sewn pattern maybe to make it look less soft and more like a jiu-jitsu gi and less like a karate gi, but at least it's not molded plastic, which would not have looked good at all in my opinion. One thing I want to talk about is the height of these figures. In this line, most of the figures are close to the same height. For example, Jardine here is 6 foot 2 inches and Kendall Grove is 6 foot 6 in real life, but here they're the exact same height. Miguel Torres is a tall bantamweight at 5 foot 9, and he's only slightly shorter here than the Spider, despite their difference of real life 9 inches. At least we can't complain about Brock Lesnar and the rest of the figures, though. Another thing of note, I really like these gloved hands they made for the figures, which are a closed fist and an open hand, and both look really nice. However, the heavyweight's hand is unusually huge. For Brock, it's okay, but check this out. Here's Ken Shamrock, formerly of UFC and WWE. Notice something funny about his hand and Brock's? That same gloved hand is also used by other figures in the WWE line, such as The Undertaker. Speaking of WWE, let's take a look at how these figures stand up next to some of the competition. Looking at Flair and Royce, you'll see what I mean about going an extra mile with Royce and his gi, and giving it some texture. Rocky Balboa versus Houston Alexander. Dream match, not as awesome as Brock Lesnar versus the Incredible Hulk. And just for a size comparison, here's a 3 3/4 inch clone trooper next to Frank Mir. So now you know way more about the UFC action figure line than you probably wanted to know. But that's what I'm here for. So what's the final verdict on these things? Well, I for one pretty much like the first wave of these figures. I think it's a pretty good start. I can see some problems right now, that being the recycling of some WWE body parts. But I was actually a little surprised that there was more articulation in these figures than some of their past ones, since I'm not really a mint-on-card collector. And if you are a mint-on-card collector, these packages are actually really nice, very easy to keep dust-free, which is a plus. And otherwise, I'm a fan. I think, Jakks has some things they can work on, and I think they are going to fix them in the future, such as the height issues and some different body types. But just like an MMA organization, the first show isn't always the best show, and I think they're going to work out the kinks in the future. So I'd say if you're a fan and you're looking to buy them, check it out. They're a bit pricey because they are made for collectors, but they're pretty nice. Even if you just get 1 or 2 of your favorite fighters, put on your desk at work or in your home office, it's worth it. So there you have it, Wave 0 of the UFC action figures by Jakks Pacific. If you want to learn more about them, you can head over to jackspacific.com, or you can go to any of your local Toys R Us's or Walmarts to buy these in person, or ringsidecollectibles.com. I am the Fight Nerd. Thanks for watching, and good luck shopping. This video was sponsored by Hoodlum Fight Gear, made by fighters for fighters. Check out their gear and apparel for men and women at hoodlumfightgear.com.